Hello and what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TGVZR. Man, we haven't done a podcast in a little while. Hasn't really been a whole lot of news, but there's a lot of news breaking now.
Yes, E3.
E3. So much news, I don't even really know where to start, but we're going to start with Gravehonor here, and she's going to tell you about something kind of neat.
Well, well, I know Xbox or Microsoft started first, and I didn't really follow theirs too closely because, not I don't have an Xbox or anything like that. And I still don't really plan on getting one because there's just not no exclusive games or content for me that wouldn't come out for the PlayStation 4 or whatever. But one thing I at least found very impressive if they stick to their guns is if they for their next project, Xbox Scarlet or whatever, they say they are going to make it backwards compatible with every generation of Xbox game. So if I wanted to, if they kept their promise, I could buy an Xbox Scarlet and then just go out and find a cheap copy of Blue Dragon because I've always wanted to play it.
I knew that's the game you were going to say.
That's like the only Xbox game I know that I've ever wanted to play.
Yeah, I know. Like I had the original Xbox and I enjoyed it, and I probably had four, maybe 500 games for it. Um, my Xbox 360, still have it, still have over 100 games for that. But I did not go with the Xbox One. Decided to go with PS4, thinking that hey, PS4, PlayStation's been pretty good about backwards compatible, but it's always just been like one system back. So although I do think that there was a version of the PS3 that would play PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games, it was like that Piano Black edition. um,
Yeah, it's kind of like a thing they don't tell you when they just sweep it under the rug with like it depends on your model number if it is actually backwards compatible,
hmm
and then they just kind of take it away as they keep making newer systems or
yeah,
consoles.
which kind of sucked because it was like the all of the newer improved versions of the PS3 going forward were not backwards compatible, and
Mhm.
that kind of sucks because I still have a PS3 that I use for streaming for when I play like Red Dead Redemption and stuff, and I'd love to be able to
Mhm.
throw a PS1 game in there and play it
Yeah,
over
PlayStation
HDMI.
2 and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
anything.
so I think it would be nice that I know they said the PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 games, which is good, but I'm kind of hoping that seeing Xbox do that, they'll push it just a little bit farther and go even further with backwards compatibility.
I mean, why not? I think it would open them up to an entirely new market of being instead of people having to hunt these games down used, right? So, let's say you do PlayStation 5 and then all these games that you offer for digital download that are PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games for the, the you can get the digital copies. Like, why not re-release those as physical copies for that same price, like $20 or whatever, and let people be able to play these older games like on the newer system without having to do downloads and whatnot. I think
Hmm.
there's a market there.
Yeah, and some people say that they don't really find a reason for backwards compatibility because they usually don't turn back to their older games once they upgrade, but I'm not like that, mostly because my backlog is like several generations back as
Right.
well.
And
Like there's some PlayStation 2 games I've never even finished and I want to. I'm like, ugh.
well, I mean, I can think right now. I could think of at least 3 to 4 games minimum that if I had a PlayStation One fully functioning, which I have two of them, but I think between the two of them there's a working one. But there's definitely games. I go back and play Final Fantasy VII all the time. One of the first
Yeah.
times I streamed was Final Fantasy VII. Oh,
And like if they were to make it more compatible with the newer systems, it would be so much simpler to stream because if you try to attempt to stream an older system, it may not even be possible. Or two, you have to get a whole bunch more cables and wires, and your house or apartment looks like a floor of wires
yeah.
and a hazard.
Well, I just like the fact that it would all of these old games you'd be able to play on a new system that would go through the HDMI, which means
Hmm.
you could play it on your newer TVs. Because if you try to play an old game on these new TVs, it just doesn't work out. But also,
Yeah.
like for people like us who are streaming with a game capture device like the Elgato or the Mirabox or whatever, um, this is a way to be able to stream those older games without having to kind of do like emulators or ROMs or what. It's a perfectly legal and perfect working copy
Yeah.
of the game. You know, like here's a way you're mad at people doing emulators and ROMs, then give us a way to play the games.
Mhm.
Like perfect
Same
copies,
with like stuff that should come over here that I would have bought, but that doesn't come over. I am talking, of course, about Dragon Quest Monsters.
right?
Anyway, that's not about E3.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of, that's cool. Xbox is going to have that backwards compatibility. Hopefully, PlayStation takes note of that because
Mhm.
my feeling on it is that some of the more anticipated games for the PlayStation 4, which one of them I'm getting ready to talk about, um, they're waiting towards the end of the life cycle, I feel, so that yes, you can buy it on PS4, but it's gonna also, as soon as the PS5 comes out, there's gonna be like a special edition, and it's this, I don't know, just like you should have just waited kind of thing, but they wanted
Yeah.
the double sales,
Oh,
and
and also it's like I know people prefer physical copies, myself included, but even if like the PlayStation 5, if they can't do it on the actual discs because like PlayStation 2 isn't Blu-ray or something, even if they just put digital copies and more available old games for reasonable prices, like $5 to $10, I would buy them again,
sure,
just so I could more easily stream it without going through all these hoops and extra wires.
sure.
Anyway, now I'm done.
All right, so that brings me to probably one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about. Speaking of going back and playing old games like Final Fantasy VII. Um,
I wonder where this could be going.
it's probably not going exactly where you think it is at first. So here's the thing: Final Fantasy VIII finally getting the HD remaster that it deserves.
Hmm.
It's not a remake. It's not like Final Fantasy VII remake, which you bet your ass we're about to talk about that.
Yeah.
But but it is a remaster, which means it'll get like the Final Fantasy X treatment. It'll get the upgraded graphics. I will say their trailer was still showing obviously the PlayStation 1 version it looked like because it looked pretty
Yeah,
gnarly.
they were still showing like the PlayStation 1 cinematics that were
Yeah.
like plasticky looking, but amazing for its time.
Yeah, and honestly, they probably won't like do that kind of a remaster. I don't think they'll. I think what they'll do is they'll up the polygon counts. They'll upgrade. You know,
Maybe the resolution and the textures a little bit.
yeah, but they're not gonna remake the cinematics or
Oh
anything.
yeah, it's not going to be like Final Fantasy VII, but at least it's getting a slightly updated version, and they did add a couple things, I think, like battle speed ups and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is in the PC version. So
So it's just basically a port.
well, yes and no, because it is a port, but I mean they are upgrading it to 4K resolution. So I mean this is a
Oh,
game you
so
couldn't
the
get.
port. Oh,
Hmm?
sorry. The port for the PC then, that's like the original older
Mm-hmm.
chunky graphics, but they added like the speed up battle system and stuff.
Yeah, and it had
Oh,
like
okay.
it had like what they called trainers. So like it had things you could do. You could manipulate your game save to, get infinite money, or
It was
um,
like pretty much had built-in cheats,
yeah, it,
and
it was, but it was also, like I said, they called them trainers because it was like, they would, you from level one, you could have a hit that would hit for 9,999, basically one shot everything, for people that just kind of wanted to play through the story
mhm,
without worry of death. So, but
or
that was the
grinding.
yeah, that was the way they did it back then. There was in that type of game, it wasn't really the kind where you can just switch it from easy to medium to hard. So they had these things called trainers, and you could manipulate those. But okay, so people know that on the previous podcasts, I've talked about it several times. I've talked about this Final Fantasy VII remake, and I was kind of on the fence. And then we saw like the little teaser trailer with Eris, and I was like, yeah, it looks good, but I'm still on the fence. And I'm gonna just tell you right now, I'm gonna take back any regret that I had towards the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Square Enix, you've got a customer.
Yeah, I am going to get it. This uh the trailer from yesterday. Um, so while it's not turn based, it does have like assignable buttons and that kind of thing, but that's probably not even. I mean, it has this kind of like pause menu, and I'm assuming it
Yeah,
works the
it
same way as the Intel button does on Mafia 3, which is the flat pad on the PS4. You
yeah.
press it.
From what I remember them explaining it, it's like you just use the basic attacks in real time, and then the action time battle gauge fills up, and then you have a choice to either assign their skills to hotkeys so you can keep the action quick, or
Hmm.
everything goes into super slow motion, almost pause, and then you can choose to use skills that way.
Right. So it works like bullet time, and
Hmm.
then what you can do is you can use that for casting your spells, casting your summons, which I'm a little bit disappointed they still haven't said anything about the summons, but I did see on the pre-order screen that if you pre-order the game, you get
A
this
cacto.
a cactuar,
Cactuar.
and a choco chick summon, which those were not the summons in Final Fantasy VII, so those are new.
I
Um,
wonder if they took them from World of Final Fantasy, because I'd never seen the Choco Chick at all until that one.
no, the Choco Chicks have been around, but
Oh, okay.
the Chocobo Mystery Dungeon had Choco Chicks in it, so
Dang, I
um,
don't remember, and I played that one.
but the thing being is that there are going to be summons, but I wanted to see one of these grand remastered summon animations,
Hmm.
and I was a little bit disappointed they didn't show that. But obviously, if you watched the direct, the moment that Tifa hit the screen, the audience went nuts. Like
Hmm.
it was like,
Yeah.
and I get it. Like people have been asking for Tifa, and because in all these teasers, she's the only one we hadn't seen of the main. In fact, the fact that they showed Tifa when they first showed her, she was handing over Barrett's daughter, which is a very key scene. I realized that because I was so interested in Tifa on screen, I didn't even get a look at what Barrett's daughter looked like. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because
Just to see how
I
much they improved that one.
I didn't even pay attention to her. Like I saw Tifa and I was immediately locked on it. One because of the crowd reaction, but for two,
Hmm.
I was like, well, they've got her in the same little outfit with her little belly button showing, and they got like, everything. I was like, so, but in all, I still think they did a much better job on Eris. And anybody who's played the game, I hate to tell you this, but I, I, I don't feel like crying all over again. And I cried when they were polygon models, and now you're making them look like they didn't even just have the look to them. Like you actually heard her speak, and when you hear her voice for the first time, you already know her fate. You've played this game, and if you haven't, oh well, don't listen to this podcast. But
Or they probably heard it on the internet a million
look,
times if they
the
have any
game's
interest in
the
games.
game's 30 years old. I mean,
Hmm.
close to it. So if you haven't played it by now, that's your fault. I'm not spoiling anything, but I'm just saying, like, just based on what I've seen so far, um, they make Eris extremely likable, and that was the point in the first one too. Like, she was likable, but and they even tried to like force a relationship onto you with her. Like, she would ask little questions, you had to take her on a date, you had to do this kind of stuff, even though you had the option of constantly, saying no or acting like you didn't know. She would just kind of have this like tee hee kind of laugh when you would say stuff. So now, like, they've brought her to life, and she's no longer this little polygon model that
Be
you.
prepared to cry in
Oh man,
HD.
I'm just saying, like, tears.
And you're gonna stream it too, most likely, right?
Yeah, I won't have webcam
Yeah.
on. But yeah, so we had a first look at Tifa. Cloud looked great. Tifa looked great. Barrett looks awesome. I saw he had some new stuff that was not a part of the original game, like the body armor abilities and that kind of stuff. So there is new stuff. Um, I think the one thing I thought I was going to be super impressed with that I ended up not being too impressed with was Sephiroth. I felt like they, in a way, I'm kind of glad they kind of left him alone a little bit, but he just didn't have that feel. Like, he didn't have that look and that presence that the others had. And, but you knew it was him. So in your heart, like, if you've played that game, when you see those shoulder pads and
Remember
the,
your hatred.
yeah,
Yeah, pretty much that.
when you see the shoulder pads and the flowing hair, your heart just like sinks
And he
into your
gets that
stomach.
opera music or whatever.
Yeah. So, I won't stick on this for too long because, let's see, Square Enix was a whole thing on its own. So I'm
Yeah,
just gonna.
they had a lot of good stuff.
They really did. And I'm gonna just hit the high points here. Final Fantasy VII remake. I'm on board. That one called Outriders. The ones from the makers of Bulletstorm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Final Fantasy.
Shooters aren't really our thing, but it looked pretty good, and it was cool to see into Poland's studio.
Yeah. Now, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, which is coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Um, I already own Final Fantasy VIII on almost everything, and I'm gonna end up having to buy it again. um, unless they pull one of those, oh, it's gonna be $40 kind of things, then I'll wait. But for now, I mean, I got Final Fantasy 7 and 8 for PC for less than $10 for both of them. So I don't really feel like dumping $40 on a remastered game of something that I already have. But if
Hmm.
if it goes on sale or shows up on Humble Bundle, thumbs up, Humble Bundle sponsor.
Hmm.
Okay, so then I'll pick it up. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition.
That is my jam right there.
Now this one, here's what I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm also like kind of glad at the same time. Now this one is coming to PS4, Switch, and mobile. So
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to feel about mobile.
it is not coming to Xbox One, and it is not coming to PC. It is not coming to anything as far as Windows is concerned. So PS4, Switch, and mobile. Obviously, you'll probably get it, and I'll probably
Heck
get
yeah.
it. The question is, are we getting it for PS4, or is this going to start that awkward one or two titles on that Switch library? Even though I think this would be a fun game to have on Switch.
That's hard because the online, if you need the Nintendo Online, which you probably do, it is cheaper for $20 a year,
Right?
but there is no way to plug the Switch into the Ethernet cable, as far as I know, for better
Right.
connectivity stability.
Right.
So it's honestly probably better for PlayStation 4.
Unless
As
it.
much as I would love it on the Switch because it was on a Nintendo system, it was the Crystal Chronicles series has always been on GameCube and the DS and the Wii.
Hmm. And they did have like some Final Fantasy. I can't remember which ones, but that were for like the Game Boy. That were for like handheld. Um, Final
But like the
Fantasy
Crystal Chronicles
Adventures.
did have its own little spin-off series. They were for
Yeah.
the DS and 3DS. Like I can't remember their official names, but I didn't play them. I missed out on them.
And now
And
that
then they
you,
tried Crystal Chronicles 2 for the Wii, which was meh.
yeah, now that you mention it, I
Maybe it
am.
was Echoes something.
No, I'm looking at my Switch dock because that brought up a very good point. I do not remember if there's an actual Ethernet. No, there's no Ethernet plug Maybe that'll be something that they'll announce on those upcoming Switch models, which they failed to mention anything about during that, by the way.
Yeah, they didn't say anything about that.
So, all right. So anyway, Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition.
Yeah, boy.
I'll probably own
Just
it.
hearing that music, I was like, yes.
I'll be
Sorry.
honest. As much as I want to add it to my Switch collection, it probably will go on to PS4 to go with the rest of my Final Fantasy collection that I already
Yeah.
have. Um, okay, another one is Octopath Traveler is now on Steam.
Mhm.
I have that for the Switch. Haven't had a chance to stream it yet. I hear there's some
Mhm.
extra stuff, and I already saw that it's already been updated to version 1.09 on Steam as of this morning. So, um, I don't know how to feel about that. I thought that was a Switch exclusive. That was part of what made me want a
Yeah.
Switch.
It
And
was originally supposed to, but eh.
so I'm a little bummed about that. And then the Last Remnant remastered is now available for Nintendo Switch. Now,
Which is later today, right? If
uh,
not already now.
yeah, it's available right now. It came out last
Okay.
night.
Oh, okay.
You have to remember the Square Enix one was yesterday.
Oh,
So, um, so
right.
he,
I watched them both because whoops.
yeah, no, it's fine. So here's my thing with the Last Remnant. That was a game that I felt was very underrated. There were a lot of things I liked about that game. I actually even played that game on stream, and I think the PC version of that game looks as good as any remastered version could probably get. I don't really like. I was playing it, and I was like, man, this game still looks really good for a game that's 15 years old. So I don't know like what type of updates it's gonna get. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it doesn't matter. The game is too hard. It's too hard to understand their system. You don't have enough control over your parties, so you never know when somebody's gonna attack instead of healing, or it's just. And I've gone through forums, I've gone through Reddit threads, I've gone through everything of people still to this day trying to figure out how to set those things up correctly to be able to get past certain parts, and it's just too much. If a game is that hard, to me it's not worth it. I'll stick with the one that I've already paid for before I buy one just because it's on the Switch.
Hmm. There's still a part of me that wants to try it after seeing the trailer, but I'd have to wait for it to be pretty darn cheap
Well,
because I don't do well with those kind of frustrating
I
games.
am pretty sure that you can get Last Remnant, not this HD remaster version, but you can get the actual Last Remnant on Steam through Kingwin if they haven't taken it out of the store yet. I got my copy of Last Remnant for $1.09. So, um,
I mean, I actually have it on my Steam library. I bought it when it was on sale at one point before they even had the remaster or remake announced, but before they pulled it from Steam. So I don't know if because
yeah.
they pulled it, if it won't work, or I just have it. So
Oh, all right.
shrug.
Hey, look, it's a hard game, but if you can figure it out, it seemed like up to that point that I played, like I
Oh
wasn't.
God, you know I'm gonna rage. You saw me how I was struggling with Penny Punching Princess. Oh my God.
I mean, look, I did rage quit it, and I rage quit it live on stream, and I even made a video talking about why I rage quit and showed the reasons why I rage quit. So the chances of me rebuying it, I already had it on Xbox 360 and on PC, so I'm probably gonna pass on that. However, the next one, Dragon Quest Builders 2, um, I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
It's got four player online co-op and couch co-op as well.
So probably PS4, right?
That one, yeah, that I think it only comes out on PS4.
It comes out for the Switch too. Remember they showed it during the Nintendo Direct.
Oh yeah, they did kind of at the end, which
Hmm.
is weird because on the Square Enix website, it actually says that it only comes out on the PS4 July 12th, with a demo available starting June 27th. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It may be one of those things where they get a version of it later down the line on the Switch, but I will probably get it on PS4 regardless, just because I have the first one on PS4.
Yeah, me too.
Um, Dragon Quest 11, Elusive Age
I wish I
S.
waited.
Elusive Age S
Yeah.
Definitive Edition. Coming to the Nintendo Switch. The key thing to this, but between the current version is being able to switch into a retro graphics option.
Yeah, because people were so upset we didn't get the 3DS version where you could do that. It had, 3D graphics, and you could also switch between a nostalgic NES looking version. Well, now we have the one on Switch.
Yeah, and
So
honest,
sweet. And
on,
also, I think they have an expanded storyline too.
yeah, it did say now you can finish the game. It said. So whatever that means, but I will say this: just because I already own it doesn't mean that this isn't a game I would not own on Switch for a couple of reasons. One, I think that if you can own this game on as many systems as possible, if you can get it on your PC, you can get it on your PS4, and you can buy it on the Switch, do it because one,
That shows support for the Dragon Quest series in general, and the more places it's available on, the more support they'll still manage to get, and hopefully that means they won't be so afraid to bring over more Dragon Quest.
yeah, that's
Sorry, I interrupted
that.
there, but I
I mean,
figured that's where it was going.
yeah, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. That's the type of game that one, you're gonna have fun no matter what system you play it on. It's got some cool features. Again, my biggest thing with Nintendo Switch is please hear me, Nintendo. I hope you're listening. Chill out with the $59.99 price tag on everything, okay? Give us some stuff where we don't have to decide between buying a game or buying groceries for that month. But I understand most new games are going to be the 59.99, but when you're doing ports and remakes, come on now,
They're
don't.
gonna pick the cheaper one if they've got that console. Like,
a-
if you had to pick between this one, even though it's called the definitive version, if someone has both systems but doesn't have that game, they're probably gonna try to buy the PlayStation 4 one because it's probably $30 or less by now.
And yeah, and it's been out longer. Actually, I think the last time I saw it, it was 34.99 used on PS4. So I understand like there's differences in them, but there's also things like I said before, I have Final Fantasy 7 and 8 for the PC. Granted, they've been re-released now for the Switch, or being released. Seven's already been released, but it's just a port. It's not a HD remake. It's not this. It's just a port, okay? But you cannot charge me 60 or even like even with the Final Fantasy 10. That's the one that gets me the most. Final Fantasy 10 has been remade, HD remake, so many times, and for every system, including the Vita, the PC, the PlayStation 4, all of them have that Final Fantasy X HD remake. And when they came out, they were only 19.99 with the remake. And you're saying 40.99 or 49.99 for your port. And Nintendo, hear me, I don't want to pay $40 for that game. I'll just go buy a used copy for $10 at the pawn shop. I'm telling you. So, um, just don't go that direction. But anyway, that's if you guys can, or if you haven't picked up Dragon Quest 11, wait, pick it up for the Switch. If you've already picked it up, pick it up again. Pick it up for the Switch. Show them that we do want Dragon Quest over here. We
Hmm.
want them to continue bringing Dragon Quest games over here. Um,
Yeah, and as much as I say I wish I would have waited, it's like I still was glad that I bought it for the PlayStation 4 like second day or whatever, or maybe even day one, because like I said, I
excuse me.
want to show support to Dragon Quest. I'm not saying this in any way to try and badmouth Final Fantasy, but I just like I prefer Dragon Quest over Final Fantasy.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's my thing. That's my nostalgic thing. And when I hear the trailers and their traditional orchestrated music or their theme song, I get goosebumps.
Well, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Everything past Final Fantasy X, so from Final Fantasy X-2 all the way up to Final Fantasy 15 or whatever the hell we're at now, plus like the I saw they were adding like a new expansion to Final Fantasy 14 online and all this. Look, Dragon Quest has become more Final Fantasy than Final Fantasy is. So,
Mhm.
as far as everything beyond, I'll even go as far like Final Fantasy X is good, but it was like the last of their turn based. But I feel like everything up to Final Fantasy 9, Dragon Quest was. Like everything that Dragon Quest is now is where Final Fantasy should have stuck with their stuff, with the exception of World of Final Fantasy. They did a great job with that. I
Yeah.
loved it.
And
Um,
I it feels weird for me to say this because I didn't even though it's nostalgic for me, I actually didn't grow up with Dragon Quest. The only one I played when I was younger was a little bit of Dragon Quest 8. And then only later I got like some DS re-releases that they made for it, like Hand of the Heavenly Bride and Chapters of the Chosen and Realms of Revelation, and then I got Sentinels of the Starry Sky. So even though I'm not sure if it counts as nostalgic, it still might because they were released maybe like 10 years ago or so.
Hmm.
I've just I haven't even played all of them yet, but just from the Sentinels one I played and Hand of the Heavenly Bride, and when they redid Fragments of the Forgotten Past, I have enjoyed every story so far.
Yeah.
Like I've always loved it with what they've done with it.
Yep. Now, because we're already
Like I
half.
even want them to bring over the Pokemon Go version of Dragon Quest Walk. I
Yep.
love it so much. Just saying.
All right. So we're already halfway through the show, and we're not even touched on the parts that we really want to. So I'm gonna breeze through these
Well,
last parts. I'm gonna breeze through these. We got Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC, which is called Remind. I am not positive. I was talking to her about this earlier. I it's DLC. I don't know if it's actually just additional content or if it's supposed to be a whole nother chapter because of how Kingdom Hearts stuff plays out. Like when you had Chain of Memories and this stuff that was released on these. So I don't know if that's like crucial to the Kingdom
mhm,
Hearts 3 because I
yeah.
haven't played it yet, or if it's kind of starting into preparing for you're gonna have to play that DLC to understand what happens in Kingdom Hearts 4. So
Just wait another 10 years.
yeah, and that one is coming in the winter, PS4, Xbox One. Also, two games that I'm really excited about is Romancing Saga 3 and
Ooh.
Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions. Now, Romancing Saga is coming to the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and get this, to the PlayStation Vita. It is going to be one of the
Holy crap! I
yes,
missed that part.
yeah, it's going to be one of the final games released to the PlayStation Vita, which is amazing. The game looked awesome, not going to lie. But the Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions is only coming to PS4, Switch, and PC. That will not be on Xbox, will not be on the Vita. So, but yes, so if
Props to them for trying.
Romancing Saga 3 will be one of the final PlayStation Vita games you'll be able to pick up as far
Mhm.
as new release games because they already quit manufacturing it. They had already made the announcement they weren't making any more games, and then this just kind of came as a surprise. This was that Romancing Saga 3 was listed in um, a Vita release. So
Mhm. And it's even officially dead in Japan now too, I think. Like
yeah,
they're not making any more.
yep. And then the last thing from the Square Enix that I'm going to talk about is War of the Visions, which is Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which was a mobile a mobile game. This is a spin-off, okay? It's not it's definitely not part of the Brave Exvius series. They specifically said it was a spin-off from the Brave Exvius universe. So they didn't show any gameplay. They just kind of did some talking, and they said it was in development. My thoughts, same. Gravehonor said it before I could even get it out. Felt like that this one is going to be more like a Final Fantasy Tactics versus how Brave Exvius plays. But they did make a very big emphasis that they were going to start expanding that world and that universe that Brave Exvius takes place in. So probably expect a ton of their mobile games coming from
Yeah.
there.
Like I'm not sure what to take from that other than, more mobile games, and I didn't know that their world was important enough to expand upon it because you would summon heroes from other eras in that game because that's how that game worked. I did
Hmm.
try it a little bit.
Now,
And
yeah,
I think they even had crossover heroes like Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
yeah. From the little bit of Brave Exvius that I did play, and I think I played that on stream actually.
Oh.
I think I'll have to go back and look, but I think I did back when I was testing out BlueStacks back in the day, and I was
Mhm.
because I remember playing it and saying that it was very hard to control with the mouse because on the touchscreen you would be holding your finger down and dragging, and with the mouse it was a little bit awkward. It would be kind of like trying to play Dragalia Lost, but with a mouse it'd be a
Yeah.
little hard. So, but that's pretty much it. It was a big day from Square Enix, and
Oh, two more things though that I think are
sure,
pretty good.
sure.
Oninaki is still looking
Oh
good.
yeah, how
Yeah,
did I
the one
forget
who
that?
made I Am Setsuna and the sequel after that, they're making that one, and you're kind of I don't want to explain too much about it because I can't probably remember it all anyway, and I don't want to take up too much time, but you're kind of like someone who helps people who are lingering in the afterlife. in a way, and it looks really good. And the ones after that is the Secret of Mana collection and what the heck is it actually called?
Trials of Mana, but
Trials of Mana. Yeah, that
they
one.
didn't talk about that during the Square Enix. They waited until the Nintendo Direct, so I actually had that on the list to talk about because that was
Oh,
during the
whoops.
Nintendo. But
Sorry. Well,
no, you're fine. You're fine. It is a Square Enix property, but I'm just they waited until the Nintendo Direct to talk about it. It was not talked about during the Square Enix portion of E3 for some reason.
hmm. The E3 partnerships and stuff got made it get a bit weird with what to categorize.
Yeah, it was interesting. All right, so Square Enix definitely. I saw a lot of people praising, and there was a lot of stuff that said that it was Square Enix's
Oh, sorry. Be right back for a second. Need more water.
Sure, they said it was Square Enix's presentation that actually saved E3. So I don't know how bad E3 was so up to that point. I saw that you know Bethesda had a nice kind of Diablo esque instance happen. So I'll have to go back and check out the story behind that. I didn't really look into it too much because Bethesda doesn't really put out anything that I personally care about. Um, but yeah, we're gonna move on as soon as she gets back. We're gonna move right into what we saw during the Nintendo Direct this morning, and what we're most excited about, and what I'm sure most of you were hoping or looking forward to seeing, but maybe satisfied, maybe disappointed, who knows. But yeah, so any of you guys that are out there listening, again, if you're listening to this on YouTube, feel free to drop the subscribe and follow us on there. We try to do the podcast live every Tuesday at 3. We did skip a couple weeks because of all the news coming in at one time, and there wasn't much news coming out prior to that because they were saving everything for E3. I will say this real quick while we're waiting. I thought it was funny. One of our very first episodes was done about a game called Little Dragons Cafe. And we kind of, it was kind of what sparked the whole idea behind this podcast in the first place. Um, Little Dragons Cafe came out. It was from the people that made like Harvest Moon or whatnot. And Gravehonor played it, and she liked it, and I played it, and it was pretty cool for a little chill farming simulator type game. And then, of course, Game Informer magazine gave it this really low review. It was like a 6.5, and they just kind of trashed it. And it made her upset. And so we did this whole show about how they gave this game an unfair review or whatever.
Sorry
And
about
then,
that.
yep, no problem. And then turns out that even though they gave um, Little Dragons Cafe this 6.5,
Oh, jeez.
and we had such a bad reaction to it I was just telling them that's kind of what sparked us into doing this talk show in the first place. And then yesterday I pick up they didn't mail me my copy of Game Informer, which I know I shouldn't really complain about, but I was right by GameStop, so I stopped in, picked up a copy of Game Informer that they gave me at the store. Got home and looked at it, and I said, "Well, don't feel so bad that Little Dragons Cafe got a 6.5 because they just gave My Time at Porsche a 5.75."
I think they hate any game that's like supposed to be more relaxing or something.
Yeah, well, they ripped into My Time at Porsche. Like I was like, man, I didn't even see like Little Dragons Cafe was such a low score. I'd never really seen games that really dropped down into the fives. And then here's My Time at Porsche, which was, when I played it before the game was finished, I was like, I'd probably buy this game. It was neat. It came out more expensive than what I expected, and then I ended up not buying it. Plus, it was full of bugs. It was full of glitches. But
Mm.
overall, for
But by
what
now, I think they fixed them.
yeah, but and for overall, for what it was, the game was okay. Like you knew what you were getting into the minute you started playing it. The voice acting was terrible, but other than that, everything and back then it was the voice acting even present because it wasn't finished. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it got a terribly low score, so I told her, don't feel so bad about Little Dragons Cafe anymore because now this has taken the cake. But now that she's back, we can talk about what we saw this morning at the Nintendo Direct. So,
Hmm.
I know where I want to start. I don't know where you want to start, but I know where I want to start.
So
So,
where are you gonna start?
um, man, I gotta say it. I gotta talk about this. The Dark
Oh
Crystal Tactics.
my god,
I,
we were on a phone call and he just started squealing.
oh
It
my
was so
god.
cute.
Okay, first of all, let me tell you, I grew up watching The Dark Crystal. It was one of those movies, it was a Jim Henson movie. It was along the lines of movies like Labyrinth and stuff like that, except this one was different. And this one was like all puppets, it was all mystical. And this, I used to actually go to bed as a kid and have dreams. Like, I would be in scenes from this movie. Like, I grew up with this movie. And so you had these two classes of people, or not people. I mean, they were like half elf and half something else, but they were called gelflings. And then you had the mystics, which were like these big, slow moving dinosaurs with long tails that were very wise and had magic, but they were dying out. They were all dying out. And on the opposite side of them were these Skeksis, which are like the ugly, nasty looking bird things that their emperor was dying as well. So both sides are dying, and because they both rely on the dark crystal for their life. I mean, without the dark crystal, they do not exist. And what had happened was the crystal had broken into pieces, and there was a shard missing. And so, until that shard gets found and replaced, both of these races were going to completely die out. And so, this Gelfling sets off on a quest to find the little piece to restore the Dark Crystal. And it was just like, holy crap. And I saw, as soon as the trailer started, I saw Ogra. And if you've never seen the Dark Crystal, she's like this little ugly thing with like this eye. She's got a removable eyeball. But she's kind of like this like old wise witch that they come to for advice, and that's actually where they find the crystal shard, is from her. So it's her, and she's talking, and I'm like, oh my god, are they just show is this are they actually showing a commercial? Because Netflix announced that they're doing
Mhm.
a Dark Crystal TV series. And so I thought it was a commercial at first. And then I started seeing like what looked like gameplay footage, and I'm just inside inside there's like a 2-year old little girl inside of me going, "Oh my god." So like uh, I see it, and then on top of it, it's done like Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's in the world of the Dark Crystal. It's the characters from the Dark Crystal. It's the Skeksis. It's the Mystics. It's the Gelflings. I'm excited. I'm excited because as far as
That's definitely a big surprise none of us could have predicted.
I have not heard anything about it. No, there has not been a whisper. No, I have not seen a single thing about that they were even thinking about making a Dark Crystal game. And as far as I know, and there could be like some random off PC game from like the 1980s, or like an Atari game or something that I don't know. But as far as I know, there has never been a Dark Crystal game. And I'm glad they went with the tactics style instead of trying to make an actual like Dark Crystal game where you're the Gelfling and it's basically just like Skyrim or something. But I although that would be kind of cool, but but I don't want that kind of game. Not with the dark, because they'll mess it up. Like they'll mess up the Dark Crystal for me that way. So I was so glad to see this. Super excited about it, and that was probably my most exciting moment during the Nintendo Direct. So that was and that was like one of the first games, and it just kind of stood out to me. Um,
Mhm.
they did show a lot of other stuff though. Um,
Mhm.
you mentioned Trials of Mana, and to me
Yeah.
this was like, I've been waiting for Secrets of Mana, that remake. It's got some bad reviews, but that's probably from kids nowadays that didn't play Secret of Mana back on Super Nintendo. I did. I'm gonna get it regardless. I'm just not gonna pay the price that it is right now. I'm wait for it to come down a little bit.
Mhm.
But then I saw
Same here.
this and I said, "Whoa, what is this?" Because this looks like Secret of Mana, but it also kind of looked a little bit like, You know what I thought it was at first when I seen the little boy with the red hair? I was like, is it Chrono Trigger? Did they do it? But no, it was Secret of
Dang,
Mana.
I think if they did that right after Dark Crystal, you might have fainted.
I would have. So it was it's Secret of Mana 2 called Trials of Mana, and apparently they're gonna package it up together too, so you can get a thing called the Collection of Mana, which is all the old games. Like there's three other. It's Secret of Mana, this one, and I forget what the first. I think the first one was like actually a Final Fantasy game. I don't even think it was Secret of
Yeah,
Mana.
it's weird. It didn't actually have the Secret of Mana subtitle with it
But
or
I but it
anything.
but it's one of the ones that was for like the Game Boy or something. So
Hmm.
but I think that'll go nicely right in my PS4 collection. Or well, this is going to be on this. They didn't say, but I'm assuming it's Square Enix. It's going to be PS4 too, and it came out during the Nintendo Direct, so you know it's coming to Switch.
Hmm.
But since they didn't mention it in the Square Enix, like, eh, if it comes out on PS4, it'll go right there next to Shenmue 1 and 2 on my rack. Um, but I'm definitely and hopefully with the release of that they'll drop the price of Secret of Mana. So um, I was pretty much looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Now before you get to the main purpose of this whole thing,
Well,
was there any games in between that you found interesting?
well, they still showed off a little bit more of Link's Awakening, which I still think looks adorable as heck. And like what Titan said, he actually said that it looks like a little toy set you would play with as a kid. I'm like, yes, that's perfect. That's a perfect way to describe it. It's
Yeah,
adorable and looks like little toys. And I definitely want to give it a try when it comes out.
yeah, for sure.
Um, let's see. Astral Chain still looks cool, but it still didn't really give me too much to explain like the gameplay.
Right.
But I'm just taking guesses with how they put that actual astral chain around an enemy's neck. They turned blue, and then it showed them in the next scene fighting together. So I guess you
Mm-hmm.
could temporarily tame things, or maybe you just tame them Persona style in a way, and then you take them with you, and that's what they're whipping around. And it's not co-op. Like when it was first originally said, like, are those people like slinging each other and it's co-op or something with the chains? But it looks like it's more like you have to tame certain enemies to help you out in ways.
Yeah, and it
And it
did.
looks really nuts, and I do want to play it, but I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna suck so bad because there's so much going on and I can't see. And oh my god,
Yeah, it did have a kind of like a
am I too loud? Do I have to
no,
adjust my
no,
microphone?
you're fine. It did
Okay.
have this kind of like persona. At first, I was joking when I was like, oh, so it's kind of like Pokemon. You're just gonna walk around and catch these things, but it really does have more like that persona feel to it, where because it did say that the, how well that they did was based on how much of a bond you create with them. And so I don't know if that means, like back in the day, that just meant like, well, you summon this one more than the other, so this one
Hmm.
shows up faster. So
Yeah.
I
So it could mean anything. They just haven't really given us enough yet. So
yeah,
maybe we'll find like more stuff revealed a bit later because it comes out this year, I think, like around September, doesn't it? Or August?
I think so. I think so. And it is Platinum Games, so they're trustworthy. They're
They're
good.
good at their action, and people
Yeah.
are still waiting for like Bayonetta 4,
Yeah,
3,
I couldn't even
3.
believe that Platinum Games took on a Ninja Turtles game at that point.
Hmm.
Like, and they did a good job. They just need to fix the AI, and it'll be all right.
I'm trying
um,
to think. I don't think there is.
okay, so there was one other game that I saw that at first I was like, okay, I really want this game. Then the more they showed of it, I was like, kind of don't like the way it looked in certain spots. This top down and kind of from an angle. Even though it
Oh,
was kind of reminiscent of some other games, but at some points the game looked really good, and it's a mafia themed game. It was called City of Sin. Um, and there were definitely parts of it that reminded me of God, if anybody ever played Grand Theft Auto back when it was legit like Grand Theft Auto or Grand Theft Auto 2, it kind of had that kind of feel to it, where the cars and the roads looked really detailed and the buildings were kind of but it was like this top down weird. I don't even know how to explain it,
it
but
looked like a isometric adventure game, which I think is also called the Top Down.
yeah.
Not enough was really shown about it to know anything,
Now,
really.
and at one point, like some points, like it would look really good, but then like it was showing him like standing in a club firing this Tommy gun, and honestly, that looked really cheesy. Like he looked kind of squared off, and it looked like it was very generic. Um, so I'll need to see more about that game, but it
Mhm.
did spark a little bit of interest, which is more than I can say for some of the other games. I mean, obviously, the Square Enix and the Nintendo both did a review on Avengers games.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was just gonna get on that.
the,
Because neither of us are really like comic book fans exactly, or we don't really go out of our way to watch the Marvel movies. I've seen a couple because I was invited, and they were enjoyable just because they put in enough jokes in there, and there's some basic stuff to understand, but I don't know, like, the deep reasons why they do what they do, how they are, what their background is, unless they happen to mention it. Um, but I thought the Marvel game for the Switch looked okay. Like, not as good as the other one, which I'll talk about in a second. But if it came down to price, I could see it as just like a beat 'em up playing some superheroes. I mean, why not?
it looked like a mobile game to me,
Yeah.
but
But the other one, for the PlayStation or whatever, that one to me looked like a playable movie.
yeah.
Like when we were watching the scenes and they're just talking, I'm like, this is reminding me of watching the movie, but I'm not a super fan, so maybe I don't really know if it's that good or not, but I wanted to get it.
Well,
I thought it looked really cool because they have a single player story mode that is, unique to the game, and they also will have an online mode with no loot boxes and no pay to win stuff. They'll unlock or reveal new superheroes to play for free, and they'll have campaigns to play online with like new evils and stuff to fight off with your friends. So I thought that sounded really cool.
I thought the best part about that game to me was the freaking chat. So, so the whole time that I'm watching the E3, I'm watching the chat along the side, and for every game, they're just booing everything, and even the Final Fantasy VII remake, and they're all it is a bunch of people hurry up and show Avengers, show the Avengers game, show, and then it gets to the Avengers game, and like she said, we're not into those type of things, but I'll give it credit. Like it looked good. Did they look like the characters from the movies? No. Did Iron Man look like Robert Downey Jr.? No. Does Thor look like Chris Hemsworth? No. Does the other dude? Does Captain America look like Chris Evans or whatever the hell his name was? No, they didn't. They had the similar look, but it wasn't like they were
If anything, they probably tried to find like appearances more close to the comic books, since
exact
sometimes they've had to change the actors in different movies.
exactly. So for an hour, because Square Enix waited till last to show the Marvel thing. But for an hour, all I did was listen to people or read people complaining about hurry up and show Avengers. And then as soon as the Avengers showed, they were just complaining. And it was like, and even the other people were making fun of them. They're like, look at these 13-year-old kids with their mom's credit card, trying to buy this game. And they're, spent this whole time bitching about not showing the Avengers. And of course, you can never get it right. Like, you can never even here's this Avengers game that's the best looking Avengers game that's been made to date. Like the graphics, the gameplay that is the best they've done so far, and it's still not good enough for these snotty ass brat game
Hmm.
snobs. And
That's what kind of upsets me, and I start to not look at comments anymore. Because all I see is like 95% negativity, how not good
oh
enough,
yeah, trust me,
and
during
then it starts making me think too much. I'm like, nope, not no.
yeah during the Nintendo Direct, I was like, look, we're gonna watch this straight from Nintendo's website with no chat. Like I don't want
Hmm.
the chat. Like I don't care. If I would have seen one person badmouth the Dark Crystal Tactics, I would have went off in the chat. So, and then I would have missed the rest of the
Yeah.
announcements. Uh,
Nintendo's Direct felt pretty fast paced, and it was kind of hard for me to keep up sometimes.
yeah, and I saw, there was a lot of Smash Brothers content.
Yeah, and for some reason they split it up into two. Like they did, like, something here or there, stopped, did something else, showed it again,
Hmm.
stopped again, then the last one. So I'm
Yeah,
like, why not just put it all in the one thing? If you want to show it last for hype, then show it last.
I'm not a Smash player, but I will say that I love the fact that they brought all the Dragon Quest, like all of them. They
Yeah,
brought.
all the heroes from the past games, that's pretty cool, and it looks like that I'm not sure if they're like the same character that you just call upon them or switch out between them if one gets tired. or if they're all separate clone fighters, because I would see the one fighter do something, and they'll jump back, and the other character would do something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm not sure if you kind of switch between them like the Pokemon trainer, because also during their final smash, it showed all of them to do a fancy move.
Yep. And
So that was still kind of neat.
of course, they brought
The
in
troll reveal.
yeah, the Banjo
Kazooie.
Kazooie, and of
I
course
do like their sense of humor with their reveals and trailers, though. If anything, I enjoy those.
they trolled it with the dog and the duck from the original
Hmm.
Duck Hunt games on the Nintendo, which was hilarious because it even started playing the music, and he even did the whole thing where he just popped up
With the
all over.
laughing and
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, as a kid growing up, the technology for the video games back then was not at its peak, obviously, and so we had to use these light guns, little light zappers on our regular TVs, and you could be standing 2 inches from the TV, put it on the duck, and pull the trigger, and it miss, and the dog laugh at you. So
God, that was so rage
as a,
inducing.
as a kid, if you ever played that game and got laughed at by that dog, you probably got laughed at a few 100,000 times, good enough for it to be burned into your memory. So to see that in that trailer, to see that dog do that laugh, and he's got the duck up with him, and oh my god, like I was just like, okay. Luckily, it was just at first. I'll be honest, because they started that scene off with Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and
And King K. Rule for some reason in the same room.
yeah, and so I was thinking, wait a second now, but with how the Nintendo Switch is doing with all these ports, and are they remaking Donkey Kong Country and porting it over? Like that's my first thought. But no, so yeah, there was a lot of Smash Brothers content. Some of it was good. I'm not a Smash player, but I did think it was cool for them to include the Dragon Quest people, which just means Nintendo and Square Enix are doing good
Mhm.
in their relationship. I also saw
And
that Microsoft was teaming up with somebody else for one of their presentations.
yeah, I'm not sure when that'll be. Maybe
Yeah,
during the treehouse thing or something.
maybe.
And then of course the actual reveal that they trolled about Banjo Kazooie.
You cut out.
Dang it. So after the troll reveal, I can't remember if I mentioned it, but after all that trolling and making us think it was, then it wasn't. But Banjo Kazooie is in the game as a
Yeah,
fighter.
yep. It was Banjo
They
Kazooie.
didn't show any more of Joker though, other than like a still shot of him.
Yeah, he was like helping somebody up a cliff. Um, okay, so I mean that's just gonna bring us to, let's talk about Nook Incorporated.
Yes. At first, I wasn't sure, and I thought the Nintendo Direct was going to end with nothing. But then you reassured me, saying, because as soon as I heard like regular talking, I just immediately wasn't listening anymore. But they say, "Hey, wait! Look at the text says Nook Incorporate." I'm like, "Holy crap! What?" So then we see the trailer for da 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 da, Animal Crossing New Horizons for Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And since that's a series that has to have like simplistic visuals, I feel like it's kind of a challenge to like make it look good after each one, but they still managed to make it look really good. Like high def, more detail, yet cute and simple graphics. I think that's one of the hardest things to do. Because now these little details, like now that the wind will blow with the weather, animals will act differently depending on the weather. And yes, that reveal they got after two, the Breath of the Wild 2 tease.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, with Animal Crossing, there was a little bit more details that I found on an article that was apparently talked about at their treehouse thing.
Okay.
So you can decorate outside, as people saw in that. So, like Happy Home Designer, now you can do stuff outside and put them wherever you want. So, you choose the initial place of your tent. You can put like little gnomes and garden patches and stuff, and weather will matter. Like, weather plays a big role in this. Animals will act according to the weather, and weather changes depending what time your system is set. June in the northern hemisphere will be summer, but if you're in the southern hemisphere, it will be winter. And wind is prominent, and you can tell how windy it is by the trees and leaves swinging. And also, I noticed that the character's hair will actually move a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not just a stiff block that sits there, at least with the ponytail. And I saw the part of the trailer they pole vaulted
Yeah,
over a river.
I
You
was
can
just going to say.
craft.
Let's talk about
And
pole vaulting, okay?
yeah, pole vaulting over the river. It's like after that happened, I'm like, oh, oh shoot.
No more having to run all the way around and tear up all your grass just to get to the bridge. You can just
hmm
pole vault right over. And for that stubborn fish that just keeps going to the other side.
hmm And there was going to be crafting in it. Like for example, it says you can craft a headband. You plant
You're
petals.
breaking up.
Ugh, stupid internet. Okay, I'm probably going too fast. Let's try
Slow
that again.
down, breathe.
So now you'll be able to craft, which I guess they kind of took from Pocket Camp, but not exactly. So you'll be able to craft an example of flower headband. You'll need specific flowers and harvest the petals to use them. And harvesting the flower won't destroy the plant, so apparently you just take the petals. And now you can have more gardening. You'll be plant whole new gardens, trees, and more. And they can be used for resources and furniture. Um, they might have a reward system, kind of like the Meow coupons, called Miles. Players earn miles for many activities in the game. Based on Tom Nook's new business model, Travel Agency, players will be able to earn and spend miles on many activities. It works very similar to real life mileage programs. And there will be multiplayer, as you could probably tell in the trailer. But for this one, it's a little bit different. Players will be able to occupy a house on your
All right,
personal
hold on one
island.
second. Hold on one second. We're being hosted by Twecker, so it's playing the
Oh, oh,
it's playing the theme song, so it was covering up what you were saying.
oh,
So
whoops.
no, you're good. You go ahead. So last thing that I actually heard was mile points that would be similar to mile points in real life. Thanks for the host, by the way, Twecker.
Yeah, thank you for the host. Um, so it's kind of going to be like you might get reward or something for doing certain game, like the meow.
You're breaking up again.
For crying out loud! And it shows my voice is connected, so I don't know, maybe the weather's bad today. Uh, I might have to send you the
No,
article
you're
with
fine.
it and you finish
No,
it.
just go ahead. Just it's like you already said about the meow coupons and
So
uh,
anyway, it's now a miles reward system, so you get miles for doing stuff. Multiplayer, players occupy a house on the island. You can call a friend and have them join you. There's no need to open gates or any sort of UI work. Players will be able to explore together, help resource materials. Let's see. Up to 8 players can live on a single island, but up to 4 players can play at the same time. Also local multiplayer. So that makes me believe the island can be pretty big. At least I hope so. Because
sure.
personally, I'd rather have um more animals than people living on my island. But I'd rather have room for some animals.
Yeah, so I'm wondering
Um,
if they're gonna cut out the traveling to visit other people's towns, and is it gonna be that they can actually become a resident in your island
yeah, that's
instead?
I think that's what it says, like how players will be able to occupy a house on your island.
Right.
So they can occupy the house. I'm not sure if that means permanently, like they live there, or they just kind of visit in a vacant cabin, because it says you just call a friend. So maybe they take an airplane, come to visit, and they leave.
Yeah. Now the other thing is,
And also, the one last thing on here is that players can share and trade recipes. So it's kind of like bringing back the auction house. So to help people complete things. And also, fishing says will now feature extensive fishing. For example, you'll be able to craft fishing bait.
right. Now, well, that part kind of sucks because what last time we were talking about Animal Crossing during your stream, I
hmm
mentioned about how I was grateful that in this one
Yeah.
with as many times as like your thumb gets, twitchy or whatever, that at least you're not wasting any
Yeah.
bait.
I'm sure it's not required, but it might be like to catch very specific or
Sure.
special fish.
Now, I saw in the trailer, she was fishing with kind of a basic fishing rod that was like a piece of stick that still had like a leaf on it.
hmm
So I'm assuming there there will be different quality of
Yeah.
fishing rods.
Like when you first start out crafting and you'd like shake those sticks from the tree, you'll be making like makeshift tools
And
of
then
sorts. And
because
then later you'll probably get, yeah, better.
and now because you're already starting off on an island, I wonder if they're gonna do away with say like what they did in New Leaf, where you can go to the specific island to get the fish and the scuba diving and the you know certain bugs on the trees because there's no mention of that, but you would think
Yeah.
that
I'm hoping they still keep the diving and swimming though, because you're on an island.
yeah,
Why wouldn't you want to swim?
yeah, for
Ugh.
sure. So, and yeah, Twicker brought it up. Breath of the Wild 2, they kind of teased us with that a little
Yeah, holy
bit.
crap, that trailer was like really dark and kind of disturbing.
Yeah, and I was still trying to figure out because there was just something familiar about it, and I couldn't figure it out. But the dead body, that it was surrounding or whatever right there at the end, that had the crown and the little necklace. There's something very very familiar about that, and I can't put my finger on it. I can't figure out if that is a Twilight Princess reference or something like that. Somewhere that has been introduced in the past. I do remember that crown and that necklace emblem, but I for the life of me I cannot remember what that's from.
Yeah, I don't know because I did have Twilight Princess, but I didn't play through the whole thing. I got the special one for the Wii U to try and finish it, but haven't touched it yet.
Yeah,
So I couldn't tell you.
I'm hoping that they're trying to do is bring back some of the older Zelda, kind of like how I said, in some of the Final Fantasy games they got away from Final Fantasy, and at least in like Zodiac Age they brought back like familiar, like the bombs and the familiar enemies. And so I was thinking that maybe they're starting to bring back some of the things from some of the past Zelda games into this new.
Yeah, like some people the shrines were an interesting idea, but some people want like traditional dungeons back, so maybe they'll do that. But
Um,
yeah, I mean, I was interested and it made me realize like, dang, I probably didn't even get half through Breath of the Wild. I pretty much stopped after I met Azora, the fish people, I think they're called.
and I haven't even started or played it yet. And I have a Switch, and it's one of the games that I planned on getting just for having a Switch. But I, as of right now, the cheapest I've found it is still like 54.99 used. So until I
Mm-hmm.
find a better deal, it
Yeah.
would be different. See, Breath of the Wild came out for the Wii U. This is what I was talking about
So yeah,
earlier.
the Switch is actually a port of the Wii U version.
Exactly, it's a port, and that's the problem. I don't want to pay $60 for a port. Granted, it
Mm-hmm.
probably looks better and runs better on the Switch than it did on the Wii U. I don't know. I didn't play it
It
on the
only
Wii U.
has slightly better load times, I think.
But this is what I was saying about what I think is going to happen with probably something like Final Fantasy VII Remake when it does release, because Final Fantasy VII comes out March 3rd of 2020, which by the way is 2 weeks before Animal Crossing. So that's going to be
Oh
a
yeah, and
busy.
of course,
That's going to be a
since
busy month.
yeah, and about the Animal Crossing, I got indeed it did get pushed back until March next year, but they said the reason is actually because they want to add more stuff. So I'm like, okay, take your time.
Yeah, I
Give me
mean,
more.
look, it's definitely disappointing that it got pushed back,
Yeah.
but
At first I was so disappointed, I felt like I deflated, but then I'm like, well, I do have two towns already. I
well,
could try to stream New Leaf in the meantime, and I have too many games in general, so
I'd rather
yeah.
them push it back and finish the game than
Mm.
put it out, charge me $60, and then in 3 or 4 months charge me another $20 for the DLC content that should have been a part of the game when it was released.
Oh god, if Nintendo did that for like an Animal Crossing,
What's that? You cut out.
they would also have a riot.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, but
It's
what
so weird. It says my voice is connected, but then the circle that shows me that I'm talking just suddenly doesn't respond.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It sounds like when you get like the latency issue in the internet. But anyway,
Oh.
my point that I was trying to make is that Breath of the Wild was out on the Wii U, but it was at the end of the Wii U lifespan and then got ported over as kind of a release title for the Switch. And
Oh, they actually did that before. I forgot that Twilight Princess
I
was actually originally on the GameCube, then they
right,
ported it to the Wii.
right. So
Sorry.
my fear is that that's what's going to happen with something like the Final Fantasy VII remake. Like it's going to come out on the PS4 and it's going to, be this great game and touted and everything, but it's going to come at the end of the PS4 lifespan to where it'll also come out a second time when the PS5 comes out. And for me, one, if they're really going to do what they're saying, if the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible, then you would think there would be no reason. or it's not the PS5. Never mind, it's the Xbox. But they did say the PS5 would be backwards compatible with PS4. So
Hmm.
would there
But we're
really
hoping they take the extra step and do more.
would
But
there really be a reason to
mm,
re-release it, or release it as an official PS5 title versus leaving it as a PS4 and then it just be compatible with the PS5 or what? But I just don't want that to happen, and it seems like that is kind of like the trend of those consoles. I mean, like I said, I had no idea that Persona 5 was on the PS3.
I didn't know that either.
Persona 5 was on the PS3. It was released on PS3, but
Huh?
made its way right over to PS4. Um,
Alrighty.
but yeah, apparently there was I just that's kind of my deal with, and even with that, like Breath of the Wild being just that, it's a port. It doesn't even, if you don't have that game docked, it's not even going to run at full frame rate and on the Switch, and that's kind of a bummer. Um, I am kind of glad that they didn't show. I mentioned it while we were watching it. I know they have it planned for like that Ark Survival Evolve, but it's like the block
Oh
version
yeah, Pixark.
because the actual game, the real port of Ark, like that should be in the dumpster. Like it is
Mm.
terrible looking, and there it obviously shows that there are definite limitations to what the Switch can do, and that's why I feel like the Switch is going to be a port machine. It's going to be a good kickoff for like indie gaming, like indie platformers, because but it's also been the downfall of some Nintendo systems in the past because they start
Mm.
taking in everything, and then you get the shovelware, and then you get the games that aren't
Uh-huh.
worth it. You get the cubic ninjas. You get
Yeah, because honestly, even though Switch that is getting there with the libraries, if you look at how many games are released digitally, they're still getting that shovelware crap stuff that nobody wants.
yeah.
It's just digitally, but it's clogging up the eShop, and they have to get a better hold on it.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm scrolling through the eShop and I scroll through 10 crap titles before I find a title that I want, I mean, I'm just probably just going to get turned off by it and exit the eShop. I'm just, that's just going to happen. Um, I hope for the sake of Nintendo, like, this sounds great. They definitely added at least two games to my list that will be purchased. I'm telling you right now, Dark Crystal Tactics is probably going to be bought on the day of release. I don't even remember them giving a release date, but let that thing come with like some kind of special figurine or plush or whatever for a pre-order, and my
And
ass
you'll
will
be
be
a happy boy.
my ass will be up there at GameStop today pre-ordering it, even if it doesn't come out till 2022. Um, so let me find out. But no, I think that was pretty much everything that we were able to see so far. I know they have like all the treehouse stuff going on for the next couple days. I'm pretty sure all the big announcements are done. I did mention while you were away getting water that I heard that remember a couple years ago Blizzard and the Diablo incident, with the
Hmm.
Diablo mobile. I heard that Bethesda had that type of presentation this year and got booed as well. In fact,
Ooh.
during one of their presentations, only one person, and there was actually an article about it already, that only one person jumped up and was like "woo" and started clapping, but they were doing it out of irony. That actually just one guy in this silent room, one guy jumps up and
Oh
starts
God.
cheering for no reason. So I'm gonna have to see that clip. I'm gonna have to see what happened. But I mean, me personally, Bethesda. I mean, I don't really follow anything they do. What they did. What did they do?
No idea. Maybe they talked about shoot, I think maybe they're hinting about the next uh Elder Scrolls.
I,
But the only thing I've seen is that I've seen
oh, that
Howard say he wants it to be played for 10 years and that Fallout 76's criticism is well deserved.
yeah, and it was probably that crappy. We saw one. We saw one that was like a not Elder Scrolls, but one of those kind of
Oh. Yeah, Elder Scrolls Blades for the mobile. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah, coming to Switch. Oh boy.
Yeah, a mobile game coming to Switch, guys. They're not just porting consoles anymore. They're porting mobile phone games. Although I would say I wouldn't mind if they ported, Brave Exvius because it's playable. It's not like a pay to win situation. It's
Well, I
playable.
mean, I can see certain mobile games working fine for Switch because Pokemon Quest was mobile and Switch, and it played fine on both things.
Yeah. How about Diablo Mobile? Diablo Mobile on
Uh,
Switch.
I'm more waiting. Like I still gotta play Diablo 3, but I'm mostly waiting for Torchlight from. I hope my computer can handle that.
Yeah, I hope your computer can handle you talking because all I heard was Torchlight.
For crying out loud!
It's weird. It doesn't do that when you're streaming. It only does this on Discord.
It
I'm
did
not.
it for you too. You just cut out.
Yeah, it might have something to do with if one of us is trying to talk over the other one or something. I have no idea.
I don't know. I just know today's a very imbalanced day. But I just mean I meant I am mostly waiting for Torchlight Frontiers because Torchlight 2 was my favorite Diablo-like game.
Okay. Maybe just talk too fast for the bit rate. I don't know.
I can't talking not slow though.
I know you're
It takes
fine.
forever.
You're fine. So anyway, yeah. So if you guys are checking out this video on YouTube or hearing it from later on when we're not live, if you guys had any games and stuff that you're looking forward to, go ahead and let us know. And if we missed anything, if you thought we should have been more excited about something else, like, because I'm gonna be honest, we sat through most of that stuff like meh.
Hmm.
We really did. But if you think there's something that we should have been more excited about or done more coverage on, or if you if you say that I should have been less excited about Dark Crystal Chronicles, then I'm just gonna block you. But um, let us know, leave us some feedback, and again, I don't know next Tuesday. We've been trying to do the podcast every Tuesday. We had no news because everybody was saving up their news for E3.
Hmm.
Obviously, most of
So
it got dumped on us now.
yeah,
I
we'll
don't,
have to see if they leak anything else the rest of the week, I guess.
and if they don't, um, we may take next Tuesday off and kind of reset to what the show was originally about, which was about reviews, and we may talk about going through a couple of games or some bad reviews. I'm not even going to get into the my time at Porsche one because it's just not worth it. But we may go through and talk about some reviews, some critiques, and
Or
or
review things ourselves, maybe.
yeah, or we could give our own review, but also I am still working on trying to get a couple of special guests lined up, not just for this month, but next month as well. I'm trying to get somebody in before the end of this month. I don't know how her schedule is going to work out. She's a super, super busy voice actress, but she is the lead voice in one of the games that I will be streaming, probably starting either later this week or next week. Um, Very well known voice actress, by the way. But hopefully, her schedule is going to allow for her to give us, at least a little, if nothing else, just pop on for half an hour. Other than that, join the Discord. See if you can, it'll help keep you updated when we are going to have the live shows or not. And you can always go back and watch any of the past shows or technically listen to any of them. Um, and we're always open. If you're, we had Paul Hebbs on one time, so we're,
Hmm.
we're always open. If you have a stream and you want to talk and promote your stream or talk about what got you into streaming and your favorite games, we're always open to take a look and see if you'd be a good candidate to come on the podcast as well. So anyway, I'm pretty much done. Like I'm out of stuff to say. To be honest, all that's on my brain is dark crystal. I'm gonna
Yeah, I think we're good.
cool. So thanks for joining us. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Gravehonor is not going to be streaming this anymore this evening. I may or may not. I have no
You
idea.
should.
Yeah, I know I should, but I may not. It depends.
You should.
I gorged on some Pizza Hut pizza earlier. You hear that
Not a
pizza?
sponsorship.
Yeah,
And now I want pizza.
yeah. You hear that Pizza Hut? Sponsor us. Pizza Hut pizza, 7.99 carry out deal. So anyway, it just depends on how I feel. I was getting a little bit of a headache earlier, and I might just chill out. I might roam around, check out some other people's streams. But thanks for joining us. As always, we enjoy talking about stuff and getting some feedback from you guys. So just let
Mm-hmm.
us know how things are going. And I am actually gonna send a host over to our friendly developers over there at Bit and Toast
Which SUV would
Games
make the best investment?
Ooh,
This
that are doing some of their new stuff on Garden Paws. So
nice.
that's where I'm gonna end it at. So I appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. And great if you want to take us out.
Thank you guys for the support and everything. Play more games and get more backlog. I don't know.
That's
Bye.
right. All right, guys, have a good one.
The Subaru Outback has the best resale value in its class for 2019, according to Kelley Blue Book. Even better than the Toyota RAV4. Sorry, Toyota. It's easy to love a Subaru.